Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with my review for the Power Rangers Dino Fury Basic Figures Wave 1. It's taken me a while to cover these and I apologize. I was having a hard time tracking all of them down. I know they started to appear on Amazon, but it took so long I was just kind of waiting to find the last few in person since it was taking long anyway. And that's actually the first thing I want to bring up in this review is how weird the distribution is on these. I'm not sure about how it is for you guys, but for me, when I found them, quote unquote them, I only found red by himself for several weeks, and then it was only blue, and then red and blue, and finally today, as of this recording, I found pink and Boomtower, but for the longest time, it seemed like stores were only putting out red and blue, which is just really weird. So I just wanted to bring that up and see if anyone had similar experiences. So, as you can tell, this wave has the first core 3 Rangers we meet, and then Boomtower. Kind of weird because it seems like they're like, okay, we're gonna put these 3 Rangers here because Green and Black debuted later, but then they give us Boomtower, who also debuted closer to Green and Black. I feel like this wave should have been these 3 and then Void Knight, and done Boomtower and Green and Black next, but that's just me, being monk and whatnot. They also, of course, include the Dino keys, which I am going to cut away to now, taking a look at them with the changer voices, and then taking a look at them compared to their resoldier count. Okay, so let's check out the sounds and compare the two versions. So here is the key that comes with red. As you can see, just like the one that came with the Morpher, you have the kind of the sticker look to it. The sticker look does look cheap, but I admit I do like the art on it. I think it looks pretty cool. And then you have the face on the back we're going to be able to use for the mecha. I will say though, I mentioned this in the Morpher review, that I really wish that like the Morpher just came with more traditional keys because it's kind of a more expensive item to give, you know, kids and everybody a chance to have ones that are more like the show. But this quality makes sense for the figures, since I think that's part of the reason that they came out like this, is because if they're going to be including them with all the figures, they need something that's cheaper to make. But I kind of wish they had 2 different versions, one that was like this for the figures and whatnot, and one more deluxe version, almost like our version of a deluxe and a candy toy. But here it is next to its counterpart right here. You can see the differences there. This one's like not just a sticker and everything. I do like the details on this design better though. And then you have the more detailed face on the back once you get the camera to focus. There you go. And then, of course, obviously, this one does it like in the show. It kind of reminds me of how the Ninja slash Ninja Steel stuff, they always showed off Ninja Spin, but then it didn't spin. But let's go ahead and do the sounds. And then you get these unique sort of roaring noises going on. Alright, now we're going to take a look at blue. Same kind of points here. I do like the design of the sticker art, but it's just kind of this cheap holofoily look. And then you do have the helmet, which is used in the show actually, so that's kind of cool and I like the way they did that. And then here it is compared to his Japanese counterpart, like as you can see there in the quote-unquote night mode, and then the fall over mode, and then the back you can see it's a lot better detail. This one kind of goes more for the blue, and this one just has the blue a little bit, so there's actually kind of a big difference there in terms of the way the helmet looks. It's like they changed what they focused on. Sounds like a Sly Cooper villain music intro. Then you'll get these noises. That sounds like a Triceratops. Now we have Pink's design, Pink's backing. Here it is compared to her Japanese counterpart. Night mode, back mode, as you can see. Again, it's like they inverse focused on a different thing. This is more pink, this is more silver. Now for her sounds. This is like some DJ sounds like... I apologize for that. I shall call him Mini Boomtower. So this looks like baby's first little Boomtower. It's kind of funny and adorable and squished, and I don't have any such counterpart key for this in my collection, so there's no comparison. But this is something I really do like here. This is when this gimmick comes into play, which I kind of dig, is like, these are kind of like, you know, lesser versions of the main ones. But this is a cool thing, like most of the ones, like the individual gimmicks in Ryusoulger were the same helmet. So being able to do stuff like this in the main line that's based off of a villain is actually going to be really cool when we get the Megazords. His sounds are going to surprise you. Possibly not in a good way. See what I mean? Time to watch an early 2000s sitcom. So for whatever reason, he has the fart key, aka the Victor and Monty, Ben and Betty key. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. I'm actually going to start with Boomtower, shake things up a little bit. And I think this is an overall pretty decent figure. I think for the basic figure price point, the details on this are pretty solid. My only real problem with it is he feels a little too skinny for Boomtower. Boomtower definitely feels like kind of a bulkier guy with different proportions. This kind of feels like if Boomtower was like, thanks Hydroxycut, or like you just got squished like by a pancake, like you put him on a hamburger griddle. I don't know why you would do that. Or like he just fell and then a book fell on him. Bottom line, he gets smushed. Not in a good way, but like it just, that's what it looks like. So it looks a little bit odd proportion wise, I'll say, but I think the details are pretty solid. It's kind of weird that these are stickers, which kind of sticks out. Thank you. But yeah, basically the same thing we've come to expect from figures is solid details, not the most details. It'll look a little bit more basic from the back, but for what you're getting and for the price point, I think they're pretty decent. You have his weird, like, Kingdom Hearts wannabe blade here, which is actually kind of a cool design given his character design and whatnot in Ryu Soldier and the kind of the knight chest look, but it is kind of an interesting blade. But you have that kind of classic Power Rangers weapon, gray style. As for articulation, you can move his arms all the way around, you have elbow articulation, and you can move his legs back and forth. So, and then you can move his knees, and then you can actually move his head back and forth a little bit. It's like standard villain articulation. I like how Hasbro brought that over from the Bandai line, is that the villains always get less articulation for whatever reason. But I think he's an okay figure. To be honest, I'm not that into villain figures, although I do prefer having like the main ones. I don't really care so much about the Monsters of the Week. But again, I think Void Knight should have been first in this line. Now we have Amelia here. Amelia, the first face this face saw. And I think she's overall pretty solid. Honestly, all around, I think these figures are pretty solid outside of some nitpicks. Again, given the price point, much like with Beast Morphers, I'm pretty impressed with these. I always thought they were going to be kind of more like Boomtower, where they were more stiff, but you do have more articulation with these. Like, you get the nice range here, you get the nice range here. The skirt piece is a pretty nice material where it's not too soft and it's not too hard, and you can actually get some maneuverability. I think the colors look good. If I had really only complaints aesthetically, is that the helmet seems a little bit off. I think they got a nice silver paint here, but something about the helmet seems slightly off to me. That could be personal. And it does bother me a little bit that you have the nice silver paint here and then the gray paint here for this side of the costume. It just is a little bit of a discrepancy. Not a lot of people are going to notice, but again, for the price point, not a huge deal. But I think the proportions on it are pretty solid. It's making it look like her hips are a little bit extra wide here because I just poofed out the skirt, but it's not that bad. And as you can see, she actually has an original weapon, which is kind of cool looking, and that is one complaint I do have about all these figures, is none of them include the regular swords. They all just include these original weapons. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for an original weapon. I always like that. I think they're actually pretty cool designs. As of this recording, they have not appeared in the show. I hope they do, but it's definitely weird to not have the swords with these guys. You know, it's one thing like if you have Mighty Morphin figures that only include the blade blasters. Kind of boring, but not a big deal. But with figures like these, it's kind of like the Lost Galaxy Rangers not having the Quasar Saber. They're just so integral to them that it just is weird to not have them, especially for the mainline figures. Now we have Red here, who I also think looks pretty solid. Maybe the helmet is a smidge off. I think it's actually more the neck proportions are a little off. You can move the neck around, but when you twist it around, he's kind of looking upwards and you can't really fix that. Maybe it's just the neck proportions that make it look slightly off, but I think the details overall are pretty solid on it, and the articulation basically is the same. He just doesn't have a skirt piece, but you get much better articulation on the Rangers. Pretty much mostly on par with what we got in Bandai figures. You can see that the Morpher's not painted, which to me, again, for these figures, isn't that huge of a deal. His original weapon's a little bit boring. It looks kind of like if a taser became a sword, or it looks just kind of like a basic sword. Like I said, I like original weapons. I think this one's kind of boring, though, considering that these guys' main weapons are a cooler-looking sword. I think they could have gone with something else, even if it was just kind of like a samurai-style bigger sword or something. Like, this one just seems kind of boring. Or maybe that little dagger we've seen, because, again, as of this recording, these haven't appeared, but that little dagger showed up in the show. Now we have Blue here. As you can see, there's absolutely nothing wrong with him. He's the best of them all. No, you can see he's got this weird silver paint where there's not supposed to be any. It extends. In a way, it kind of looks neat, but that's obviously not the way it's supposed to look. You know, this is the type of detail to get annoyed over. I feel like Ranger fans will often be like, oh my god, he doesn't have this one speck of gold here. Can't believe he's not pure. And stuff like that. But this is definitely a huger mistake. Yes, it is on the budget, like normal figure line and not Lightning, but it is a pretty big mistake, especially considering when you look at the package, you have an art of him, like literally like 1 millimeter away from him. I don't know how measurements work. I know metrics, but like right next to him that shows how it's supposed to look. I mean, it's probably not going to bother some kids, but it might bother others. But it is a pretty big mistake, and that's kind of annoying. And I would say that that might be my overall biggest problem with this wave, is just this one bit here. You can probably fix it fairly easily with blue paint. Again, it's not a huge deal with this. I feel like that's more a big deal in Lightning figures. When you have to fix something major with paint with a collector figure, it's like you shouldn't have to do that. But yeah, that is a huge mistake, and that does bother me. But everything else about him is okay. You know, the helmet proportions are okay. A little bit, I would say maybe a little bit too much of a bended nose here. I think the helmets are all just slightly off, but it's not a huge deal. But the articulation's fine. No loose joint problems on any of these guys. He's got these kind of interesting little fencing Tricer weapons, which are actually pretty cool. They look like little stingers, which I kind of dig. But his main problem is really just his like bald cat. Looks like a bald like ranger toupee. Just for a comparison here he is next to the last year's main basic figure for Beast Morphers. Like, overall, I'm mostly happy with this line. Like, they're not perfect. They don't look perfectly proportioned like the figures, or the Rangers in the show. But again, for the price point, I think they have pretty solid details, and I'm more happy with Hasbro's basic figures than I thought I would be. But this line definitely has its problems. I think mainly, again, Blue's paint job on the head is a little bit messed up, and the fact that they don't come with the swords is rather annoying. But if you look past this, I think these are still solid figures, and you can just fix that up if either you're really impatient for Lightning figures or you don't want to get Lightning figures at all and you want something at a smaller price point. I think these are still solid despite some more glaring issues right off the bat compared to Beast Morphers. That's about it for this one though, guys. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can see my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.